Halloween is finally upon us, and as it's a holiday enjoyed by so many, it's inevitable we all find different ways to celebrate. Some of us may like to watch our favorite horror flicks, while others may go in a more campy direction. Some may get all dressed up in an elaborate costume to attend a Halloween soiree, and others may just put on some Halloween-themed records and pretend they're living in a haunted house. Of course, if you enjoy the occasional video game, you may use Halloween as the excuse to bust out your favorite horror-themed title like Friday the 13th, Zombie U, or The Rescue of Pop's Ghostly. Or if you're like me, you'll go the weird option and play Ghost Manor on your Atari VCS compatible console. You've probably noticed the game cartridge looks slightly unorthodox. Ghost Manor was released in 1983 by Xonox, which was owned by K-Tel, the company that crammed all your favorite hits onto one low-priced collection. What they lacked in game quality, they made up for in value. Figuring consumers would appreciate 2 games for the price of 1, Xonox released their games in double-ender cartridges. It's certainly no coincidence that the company name, written in all caps, is an ambigram. This way, no matter which game you play, you'll know who's responsible for all the fun. Ghost Manor is the story of a boy and a girl, one of whom has to rescue the other from Dracula in a 4-minute time limit. Whom you control and whom you save depends on the settings of your console's black and white color switch. Though if you're playing on a 7800, you have no choice but to control the girl due to the lack of said switch. You start off in the graveyard where you encounter a friendly rainbow ghost, or a skeleton depending on how you have the difficulty switches set. These helpful apparitions serve to load you up with spears, but only if you touch them when they're over a gravestone. At the Manor's entrance, you have to use the pile of spears you obtained to defeat the 7 spooky castle guardians, represented here by this collection of random vending machine toys, before taking down the Chop Chop Mummy down in front. It's like Space Invaders, except with ghouls and monsters. Clear them out and you'll move rather abruptly to the inside of the castle. Screens 3 and 4 find you inside large rooms filled with coffins and a continuously moving wall. Your job is to search the coffins to find one cross on each floor while avoiding the moving wall. Take care not to touch the boundaries, as you'll find yourself unable to move for a brief moment. The manual says they're electrified, but I highly suspect it was a glitch they turned into a feature. That moving wall will end your game if you meet it head-on, but you could ride it in the same direction for bonus points. If you're on a lower difficulty setting, you'll have the flickering candlelight to help you find your way through the maze, and quite possibly trigger a seizure. On harder difficulties, you'll have to wait for the lightning to illuminate the room for a brief moment. Dark or not, the rooms are quite noisy. The game tries to cram in some background music along with several sound effects. The constant juggling between them all creates this cacophony of android belches. Hopefully you found a couple of crosses poking around the caskets because now you're facing Dracula. He's almost stubbornly adept at following your position as he walks over. Almost. You have a small opportunity to get below him. When you're underneath, use your supply of crosses to force him into the cell. If you're successful, you save your friend, win the game, and get treated to a nice little jingle. But fail any part, and you'll get an 8-bit rendition of taps while the children sink into the title screen, mourned by no one. For the sake of completeness, I flipped the cartridge over to try out Spike's Peak. Yeah, not a fan. It will come as no surprise to say that Xonox wasn't a highly regarded third party. Their small library of hastily programmed games only contributed to the overwhelming glut of poor quality cartridges which clogged store shelves. This, along with other factors, would culminate into the oft-mentioned North American video game crash of 1983. Ghost Manor may be their one standout title. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch, but there's certainly some innovation in this weird-looking cartridge. Or half of it, at least. It's one of the few games of that era to have a definite game-ending goal. It was a primitive entry in what would become the genre of survival horror, and it's not too often you play the role of a girl whose mission is to save the demoiselle in distress, even if it is only a sprite swap. And really, after sampling the rest of Xonox's library, including the incredibly irritating Chuck Norris super kicks, and whatever the hell's going on in Tomac the Barbarian, Ghost Manor is definitely Xonox's best effort. Once you figure out the game's quirks, it is quite playable, offering up some quick, spooky fun. But also, let's not get carried away. It's still an Atari VCS game from a third-rate, third-party publisher. Considering their business model was to churn out hastily programmed games and slap them onto cartridges in pairs, Ghost Manor may be a case of accidentally competent. And even if you enjoy it, you're done playing in under 4 minutes, win or lose. There are worse games for the VCS, but plenty of better ones. And as far as early examples of survival horror go, Atari's own Haunted House is still a far better experience. This was Dave for TeeVee Games, happy Halloween, and see you next time.
Where does Dracula keep his money?
Where?
In a blood bank.
Here, have some candy.
It's full of witches and spooks and strange creatures of the night.
Oh, sounds like Hollywood Squares.
We go through this every year.
Okay. Happy Halloween, everybody. Whoopee.